All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today we're going to be talking about our coach Brent Venables again. He had his official introduction today, followed by a press conference, and then we've got some recruiting updates as some guys have either stuck to their commitment and said that Coach Venables just hyped them up to be Sooners even more, or and potentially guys that could flip over to Oklahoma. But before we get into that, thank you guys. We really appreciate everything you've done for us so far. Channel's been growing like crazy over the last few weeks. Keep liking, subscribing, turn on the notification bell so you know when we post videos, and make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you think about Coach, who you think could potentially be on the staff, or guys that may flip over to Oklahoma through their commitment, because we are about 9 days away from early signing day, so it's going to be ramping up here quickly. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, follow us on Spotify. We're finally streaming the podcast. So make sure to go to all those platforms. There'll be a link down in the description. And we'll be sure to keep you updated through the most up-to-date stuff on our social media when we can't get to a video. Let's get into it. We finally had the official introduction to Coach Brent Venables today. A lot of stuff came out of that. We had Caleb Kelly speak, Joseph Haraz, Joe Clutch spoke about it. And then during the press conference, they kind of talked about the process, the due diligence that they did in the coaching search. And we learned a little bit more about Brent's love for fast food. Brandon, you want to start? I know you really followed
I followed the whole thing, live tweeted the whole thing. I was pretty locked into it. So the three biggest takeaways I gathered from it. First of all, he talked about his recruiting method, which is almost a completely different approach than what we had under the previous regime with TBOW. With Dabo, or not Dabo, with Brent Venables, he said that he pretty much got to, like, their offers mean something, and they're not going to throw out as many offers as the previous regime did. But we're not going to be seeing any OU stuff at big mega recruiting camps. He said there's not going to be any Lamborghinis. There's not going to be any of that stuff. Pretty much, he said, if you want to play for OU, you want to play for OU, and that's pretty much what he got down to. Secondly, he talked about kind of like how loyal he was, and he has obviously a huge resume to back that up. Obviously with 13 seasons at Oklahoma, 10 seasons at Clemson, and now he's back. He talked about his family a lot and how his family helped, pave the road into him making this decision to become the head coach, things of that nature. And he mentioned that he will indeed be hiring a defensive coordinator, which I think we kind of all figured he would be, but it was cool to see him confirm it. He spoke with Caleb Williams. I thought was a pretty big takeaway. Also, having Caleb Williams in attendance was pretty big. Bill Bedenbaugh in attendance was pretty big because, those guys are statuses we still aren't 100% certain of. But yeah, overall, I think it was a really good press conference. Really, I think all the Sooner fans who watched it have to leave that pretty encouraged, pretty excited for the future.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a total 180. I mean, let's just start. Our last video we recorded prior to Venables actually landing. The reception that he got when he landed, him and his family, and Joe Castiglione. If you want to compare that to USC, I know we don't want to compare too much, but the difference of LA and what Norman, Oklahoma's like is night and day difference as far as the football program goes. The reception was great. I think with him, it's refreshing after a week of. He seems very appreciative. He seems happy to be here. He seems like he's locked in and he wants to be a part of the program and lead the program. And we haven't had that. And it kind of makes you wonder how long Lincoln Riley wasn't really thinking like that. Because at the time, he definitely was. It just seems like Venables is a very down-to-earth guy, loves the program, and really sees he's excited about the challenge. And I think he's going to be locked in. And the steadying force that the Sooners really needed, and someone that's been around for a while, been around the program, and knows what it takes to have great defenses, at Clemson and at Oklahoma. So, and I really like the idea of hiring a defensive coordinator. I feel like two minds are better than one, and not that he won't have his hands in the defense, because I know he will. I just think it's a good choice to have another mind to help him game plan and take a little bit off of his plate.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of you guys that are watching this video probably also watch Teddy Lehman and Gabe Eichard's podcast, the Oklahoma Breakdown. Teddy talked about whenever he was on the team, Bob was a play caller, but he still had Venables there. And as time went on and Bob had established his culture and the way he calls plays, and, as the coaches also learned how Bob does his job, Bob gave away the play calling responsibility and just became the CEO of the team, like guys like Nick Saban do. And I think that's probably going to be what is fair to expect. Brent's got to set his culture. He's probably got to teach whoever the DC is how he wants his play script to go. And then in a year or two, that play calling will be off of Brent's hands and onto whoever the DC is, which hopefully we find out soon. I know there's a lot of names put out there right now. But something that you mentioned with recruiting, Brandon, it is a completely night and day different approach. And I think that's not just a personality thing. I think that's generational. I mean, these guys are very different age-wise. Brent is 50 years old. He's the second oldest coach to be hired at Oklahoma from the first day. And then, Lincoln, very young. He has not even 40 yet. So I think Lincoln just has, that hot shot perception, and the kids want to see that. And he's also an offensive coach. He's a flashy dude. People love offense. That's why offensive coordinators get moved around all the time and go to the NFL. Venables, on the other hand, he's defensive minded. He's just looking to build a tough program, and he wants to make sure that these guys have the mindset to be able to go through that. And like he said multiple times, he wants them to be a family. It's a relational thing. During his press conference, he said, the most important players to recruit are the players that you have on the team now, and go class by class. So he's clearly not looking to 2023 right now. And, hopefully guys in the 2023 class do love Venables after getting to meet him for the first time and just recommit. But right now his focus is on Caleb Williams, the guys he has right now on his team, and 2022, because obviously that's a very important thing for college football. And that, like I said, National Signing Day is coming up here in 9 days. So he's working to make sure that he's just reaffirming that commitment from guys that are in his upcoming class, or re-getting that commitment from some of the guys that left because of the uncertainty.
Yeah, no, for sure. He mentioned, going a couple times back to loyalty, family thing. One of the biggest things that he took away, or he said it, and he kind of reiterated it a couple times, is he mentioned how he's gonna be super hard on all of his players. He's gonna coach them real hard, but he's gonna love them even more. Just stuff like that. He really does bring that tight knit group type vibe. That's kind of like his persona. It's kind of what he exuded today. What I thought, which I thought was really cool to see. And then I also thought it was really cool to see he's gonna try to build a relentless, suffocating defense, which got the biggest ovation of the whole thing. And he means it is the fun part. It's going to be a totally different, as we mentioned in the last video, just a different style approach to OU football than we're used to. But I think in the long run, we all agree a better one, especially moving into the SEC. And he mentioned that as well. He said, you've got the right guy, talking about the transition from the Big 12 to the SEC. And that has to be just his defensive minded, based approach.
Yeah, I mean, and I really think that had to factor into who Joe Castiglione was going to hire, was who could take us from the Big 12 to the SEC, which is a huge transition. You've got some, Dan Lanning was a hot shot name, up and coming guy. Same with Dave Aranda. They're younger coaches. And like you said, Jose, Brent Venables is 50 years old. He has been around for a while. He's seen how to win. He's won 3 national championships, at least has been on the staff. Dabo Sweeney, I mean, he worked closely. He was, assistant head coach. At this point, I feel like Lincoln was more so selling his name and, trying to prove to kids. I don't think Brent Venables is going to have to really try to sell kids to come play, because the facilities are the best, maybe not the best, but one of the best, at least the top 5, top 10. And I think with his name, his guys that have been drafted in the NFL, I don't feel like he's going to have a hard time needing to sell guys with Lamborghinis. I really think he's going to sell him on family. I'm going to coach you hard. And I think that's the thing I'm most excited about, is because that was one of my biggest gripes with Riley. Those stupid boneheaded, personal fouls, the undisciplined. I felt like that was all the time. Then you look at Riley and he just kind of, okay, don't do it again. Like he had a hard time bringing that edge out of kids. And whenever he had it, he was willing to live with the dumb personal fouls. And I don't think Venables will take that. I think he will expect his players, like you said, Brandon, have a suffocating defense, but play within, the rules and not get punished. I mean, you can have a great pursuing defense, but if you're getting 15-yard penalties 3 or 4 times a game, that could be the difference of winning and losing against really good teams. And whenever you play at the highest level that Oklahoma does, a lot of times that's the difference of the games, or just 1 or 2 really dumb plays, whether they're penalties or undisciplined or various other reasons.
Yeah. Something else about the introduction, and it's just going to be quick. President Joseph Haraz was very clear when he said the greatest coaches of Oklahoma football all have a name that starts with a B. And then he paused just to get the crowd's reaction. Clearly, how Lincoln exited isn't just being felt by isn't just discouraging from a fan's perspective, but guys that Lincoln worked for and probably had a good relationship with while he was on campus clearly were severed at that moment when he just decided to quickly leave with little to no heads up and put these guys in a situation where it's really kind of unprecedented in a lot of football, I guess, before this year, because now we're seeing Brian Kelly, Mario Cristobal all leave their programs that were very successful in just a couple of weeks' notice, and their college just really put in a scenario where they don't know what's next. And now with Joe, I think he did a fantastic job of his coaching search. He's been at OU since '98. His first hire, I believe, was Bob Stoops, and he's hired Patty Gasso. He hired Porter Moser. Now he's hired Brent Venables. That dude knows what he's looking for. Lon Kruger. He knows what he's looking for, and it's a personality. I think Lincoln Riley was more so put on him. I think Bob really liked him. Bob saw something that could have been special at Oklahoma and just didn't turn out. Whatever it was, obviously everyone has an idea, but it just didn't work out at the end of the day. And Brent is the guy, is Joe Castiglione's guy. It's not anyone else's but Joe's and Joseph Haraz. Those guys found the guy they wanted. They found the personality. And he seems very similar to Porter Moser. This dude had so much energy coming off the plane at the introduction. He had energy in front of the press. Like, it's fun to watch him talk.
It's a theme in all of the recent hires. You mentioned Porter Moser. Also, Berez Czech. I can't remember how to say her name. The women's basketball coach. She brings that same, that same kind of energy and same kind of passion. Obviously, Patty Gasso does the same thing at softball. There's a theme in the kind of coaches that, at least specifically Joe C, you can kind of tell what he wants. And it makes a lot of sense, because who the hell doesn't want to play for a guy who has to have a coach just his only job is to hold him back off the field the whole time? Like, that's also a night and day difference in Lincoln Riley and versus Brent Venables. Brent Venables is going to he's going to have his heart on his sleeve. You're going to know exactly what he's thinking, what he's feeling. Not what he's thinking, but you're going to, if he feels, maybe pass interference is committed in the end zone as time is, with little time in the clock in Bedlam, with the trip to a Big 12 championship on the line, I think he's going to lose his fucking mind on the referees versus Lincoln Riley. Like, thank God they didn't call that pass interference call, because we might win now. And then I can't bolt to USC. They're going to be totally different in the way they act, with the way they recruit, with the way that they their coaching philosophy. It's a totally night and day different thing, and but overall just for the best.
Yeah, Joe Casiglione has a type. He likes guys that came from from Kansas State. I mean, Lon Kruger, K-State coach. Brent Venables was a K-State assistant. Bob Stoops at one point was a K-State assistant. It's just kind of funny. I think even Mike Stoops was there as well at one point. I mean, all the I don't know. It's kind of weird how that's happened. But I think with Brent Venables, I think everyone has to come to the realization, while we're very excited, and I think the future is extremely bright. I think it's going to be, like a 3-year process. Like, I feel like I've been saying since we've started this podcast, I felt like Lincoln Riley and the Sooners, it was like a 5-year process with getting Lincoln getting in, hiring his defensive coordinator, and getting in that next step. And I felt like the Sooners were just turning the point, turning the corner with how they were starting to recruit. A little reset. I think we need to reset our expectations. I think this is a 3-year process. I think next year they're going to be, I don't think they're going to be bad any year. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going to be bad. But I think when you're going to start seeing competing for a national championship is by that 3rd year. You give it 2 full years, you get Brent Venables, get his guys, and whoever he hires as offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, they get their guys in. And that's when you'll start to see the Sooners. And that's right about the time that they'll go in the SEC, where they'll really start competing for hopefully a national championship and have that defense playing the way we want it to play. But the one request I've got for Brent Venables and the athletic director, I don't know who it is, but whoever you hire, I want the best special teams coach there is in college football. That's what I want. I mean,
not Cal Gundy's role right now?
It was more.
I think he's technically the wide receiver or part of the wide receiver staff, but
yeah, I want the way Shane Beamer or Coach Beamer was. I want that type of special teams, because I felt like that was not an emphasis last year with Coach Riley and his staff.
I think we'd all like that. I agree with you on that. And I think, obviously all the reports that we're seeing right now on Twitter, some from pretty credible people or potentially credible people, you never know. You don't want to report anything until it happens. But looks like Jeff Lebby at Oklahoma as an offensive coordinator has some real steam. And apparently a couple of ESPN sources have tweeted out that that's kind of the guy that Venables has wanted this whole process. So we'll see. I think that would be an awesome hire. I think that would really benefit Caleb Williams and the offense as a whole. But I think overall we're going to see that staff all around filled out relatively quickly. I imagine in a week or so, probably about the same amount of time it took for the coaching search to go down, because that is one thing Brent Venables mentioned specifically is he's going to hire a defensive coordinator and he wants to have the staff filled out. I think his exact words were sooner rather than later, which obviously doesn't give us a timeline, but you can kind of just probably assume a week or so is when they'd want to have it all hashed out, deals done, get your ass to Norman.
Yeah. And I mentioned it in yesterday's podcast, and Brent Venables mentioned it today. He already came prepared with people that he wants to bring on the staff. At this point, it's just the business side where they have to offer them an actual offer. They got to go through the money negotiations and all that stuff, but he knows who his targets are. They know that they're the targets to get the jobs. It's just a matter of actually getting them on board and getting them into Norman and acclimated to the program. That being said, some important things happened today in regards to the position coaches. Jamar Cain officially left Oklahoma and he's going to take a job at USC. While it's unfortunate, I think I appreciate that he stuck around. He could have easily left with the guys that did with Lincoln Riley if his intention was to potentially go to the Pac-12 or to USC specifically, but he stuck around, tried to help stabilize the program with Bob. And now that we have a coach in place, he's moving on to his next opportunity. And he's a really good coach. I don't have any sort of feelings towards him that's negative. He has Southern Cal ties, so it makes
more
sense.
With Jamar Cain, I'm not sure he was convinced he had a spot on Venables' staff and kind of is taking the guaranteed, the salary, the money. He's got to, you got to get a guaranteed job, and he knew he had that in SC.
Yeah, that's possible.
And outside of Cain, everyone else on the staff has Oklahoma ties. Cain is the only one that does not, I believe. Cain, has ties in Southern California. I believe he coached there when he first started, and now he's just going back to where it all began for him. And don't blame the guy, but we'll see who the new coach is for that position group.
Yeah, and I'll say with him is I think he also saw it as a promotional opportunity because he did get the reports are he's being hired as a co-defensive coordinator. That's part of his his title. So, he's getting a promotion. He's probably getting more money. And like you said, Brandon, I agree with you. I don't know if he felt like he had a for sure spot, because from what I've read, Venables and him don't have much of a history. And there's a little uncertainty there. And like, Coach Thibodeau, him and Venables have a lot of history, and Thibodeau knows he's got a spot. And Kane probably saw it as an opportunity to jump.
There's ties in a lot of places. If Levy ends up, or Levy, I don't, is it Levy or Levy? Do you guys know for sure? Levy. Yeah. If Levy ends up, being the guy, apparently him
Levy.
and Joe John Finley have a very close history, and they're a very close friendship. There's going to be ties everywhere eventually when the whole thing gets filled out. I'm excited to see what he does with the staff, and excited to see his vision. I think as he starts filling out that staff, we'll kind of have a general feel for what he wants to accomplish, other than what he said today is, just that suffocating style approach defense. On offense, just be physical, fast. It'll be interesting to see exactly how we fill out the staff. On a quick little segue note, we can start talking about guys like Nick Benito leaving today for, on the topic of leaving. Nick Benito, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
But yeah, before we move on to the players, and I think it is important because, he's just one of many that have potentials to move on. But another guy that we have a better chance of retaining now than we did just yesterday, Bill Bedenbaugh. USC has officially hired their offensive line coach. It was Tulsa's offensive line coach. I can't remember his name. I think it's Zach Hansen.
That's Annie Hansen's husband.
Annie Hansen's husband, who is also moving on to USC as the recruiting director. So we, now Brent and Joe are probably going to be looking for a new recruiting director. But as long as, hopefully, if the new OC wants to keep Bedenbaugh in, he's got a good chance to stick around, or OU has a good chance of not, being without him, as long as a new OC would want him there.
That's big.
Yeah. I imagine no matter who comes on staff, they're going to want to keep that guy. He's one of the nation's best as far as offensive line goes. And it was encouraging, in my opinion, to see him at the introduction today. It made me excited.
Yeah. And I know he caught some flack, and sometimes, his offensive lines aren't the best in the beginning of the season. But I will say, towards the end of the season, they were playing really well. I think it was more of the fact that, Caleb Williams was really, really young, not really able to read the defenses as fast as he probably will maybe next year. I think I put it a little more on the quarterback play, and maybe some of the offensive play calls as well, knowing that maybe someone was thinking for his personal reasons. So I think that would be a home run hire. That was one of the few. Him and Kane were the two that I really wanted to make sure we kept, and it's looking like that the Sooners are going to be able to keep 1 out of 2, which, you can't complain. It's better than none.
True. But let's go ahead and move on to what Brandon was saying. You want to just pick up where I had?
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can start with that. Yeah. Obviously, Nick Benito, a guy that, I think some of us had hopes for as far as staying, just because playing with Venables, may have been enticing, things of that nature. He obviously has elected to enter the NFL draft. Hard to really fault a guy for entering the NFL draft. At the end of the day, as exciting as it is to play for Brent Venables, he doesn't know Brent Venables. And he's coming off of a really good year, really good couple years. But, again, for 2 years consistently now, he put good football on tape. There's got to be somebody in his corner, in his camp, and his teams that are, just saying, hey, now's the time. Hit the league, get paid, make your money. Wish the best for Nick Benito. Hope he has a really, really successful NFL career. He was fun to watch as a Sooner.
Yep. And I believe there are services. I'm not sure if it's tied directly to the NFL, but they kind of give them an idea of where they're projected to go. So, I expect him to be, late first, early second round pick. Hopefully he's higher than that, but he's really good football player. Hopefully, he gets the perfect opportunity to succeed in the NFL, and, nothing but the best for that guy. Luckily, we do have a lot of guys that are highly ranked coming out of high school. Clayton Smith. We still have Reggie Grimes, Ethan Downs, who showed a lot of good football this season as a freshman. So
I think Clayton Smith and Danny Stutzman are going to be freaks in a Brent Venables style defense. And those are probably two of the linebackers that I'm most excited to see going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting, interesting week to see what staff stays on. I know there's a lot of rumors out there for names and who's going to take the coordinator positions, but the players are going to, hopefully the players stick around. Outside of Benito, we've had a couple of commits reestablish their commitment today. Venables went right to work after that press conference. He just changed out of his suit and put on some comfortable clothes and made his way over to visit Jacob Sexton. Got a picture with him and Cale Gundy. It's great to see him that he went right to work day one. Wasn't going to waste any time. Went to the closest commit or prospect, and I'm sure he's on his way probably somewhere to Texas to see what's next.
Yeah, we also had, Caden Helms came through today with a Fresh Prince GIF, whatever, saying he's not leaving. Jason Llewellyn, shortly before we started recording tonight, made the decision that he was not leaving. You obviously got Jake Taylor not leaving, Gavin Suchuk, I think yesterday, December 6th or 5th. What is today? The 6th? Yeah, December 5th. He tweeted he wasn't going anywhere. You're starting to see a handful of these sooner commits, make the decision that they're not leaving, which is exciting. Another guy that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on as we move forward here is Perrion Winfrey. He kind of right in the middle of that introductory press conference said something about can't wait to see how scary these at Brent Venables defenses are going to be scary or something like that. It was interesting. I'm not saying by any means that he's 100% staying because of what he tweeted, but it's fun to see him say something like these defenses are going to be scary. Does that mean he's going to be a part of it? Is it not? Time will tell.
Yep. And I guess the biggest recruit we're still kind of waiting to see is the biggest recruit we got left in the 2022 class, Gabe Dindy. He mentioned last week that he was just waiting to see what happened. I can hope that getting a defensive-minded coach is something that just reaffirms his commitment, but he did visit A&M this last weekend. So hopefully we hear from him soon. I'm not sure if he's expected to sign on the 15th, but hopefully we hear good news rather than bad, because this week has been only good. We don't need anything.
Sure, one to keep an eye on. I agree. Yeah, and Thibodeau's still on staff. That could also help too. We'll see.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll say, we talked about it a little bit earlier about coaches and whatnot, and this is still recruits. I think there's reports that Odom, the linebacker coach, he's visiting USC right now negotiating, and it makes sense that Kobe McKenzie have committed to Texas after that. So it must be that Odom's gone as well. I just forgot to add that in a little bit earlier. It sounds like he's gone, and that's why McKenzie left. Which hurts.
It does hurt, but I mean, it's all to be expected. These coaches, for the most part, they kind of follow a lot of these staffs kind of stay together as much as they can. So when Lincoln decided to do what he did, you expect a good majority of them to go with him.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all those guys have to do what's best for their families at this point. Lincoln kind of left him in a weird position where some of them left. The guys that had Oklahoma connections just stuck around because they wanted to make sure the program was left in good hands. And now that there is a captain to the ship, they can make their decision on, maybe they don't have a spot at Oklahoma, or maybe they were just trying to help out and now they're moving on to their next opportunity. But nothing but the best for those guys. Obviously, it's unfortunate we couldn't keep them around, but I'm sure Venables has guys in mind that are going to fill in his defensive staff. Because he is, again, a defensive-minded coach. So I'm sure he's got a lot of connections out with and making sure we fill in those position coaches. Anything else you guys wanted to add before we wrap it up today?
I was going to say, one of Brent Venables' most iconic pictures on Twitter leading up with the watch or whatever, visiting in Hayes, Kansas, Jaron Canuck or Canick. That might be a guy that Brent Venables might be able to flip here pretty quick, because he's a big Brent Venables guy. So, and being close, Hayes, Kansas is not very far from Norman.
He's crystal balled for
nothing for sure, but it seems like there's a chance.
We have picked up a crystal ball for him, so we'll see.
That's good. Yeah, it's exciting. Hopefully, we hear a lot of good stuff out of recruitment over the next 9 days. We will be sure to get a video out there in regards to recruiting, hopefully here in the next week or so. Just as news comes out, we try to collect a good amount before just putting anything out there, but we will stay up to date and keep you guys up to date with that stuff. I think other thing, shout out to Clemson fans. They've been pretty cool about everything. I know you fans, with this last week, you've been pretty bitter about stuff, but those guys have been very supportive of Venables. Obviously, everyone loves that dude in Clemson. So at this point, he's kind of just, loving his Whataburger and moving on to recruiting for Oklahoma. But if we have nothing else to add, thank you guys for watching this video today. We really appreciate it. You're awesome for making it this far. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all social media. Go check out Spotify, follow us and subscribe on Spotify now that we're finally on streaming platforms. And as we get onto more, we will make sure to update the banner, let you guys know, and I'll link everything down below so you guys have easy access to it. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.